tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Good afternoon. Daily Trudge stuff. We talk about what sponsorship is and isn't in AA, or at least my experience. Afternoon, Michelle. Good to see you. Michelle says, I need this segment. Now, yeah, it's probably gonna be a little different for everybody. Sponsorships, there's some things to it. There's some things to it. Some general things, I find that I'm kind of different with my sponsorship. Number one, I don't make my sponsors call me each day. I've never had a sponsor that made me do that. If I do sponsor somebody and they're new, maybe they're new and maybe their sobriety is new, I do ask them to text me each night that they stayed sober for that day, using it as accountability. But I don't want my phone ringing all the time, especially at night. I just want, nah. But what I do is I will teach my sponsees delayed gratification. So my sponsees are not to totally rely upon me. They've got to find their own higher power. Right. So sponsorship in what we are talking about is just a guide. All right. So let's go ahead and do some introductions, get started here. Welcome to Daily Trudge. My name is Dion. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. Now, I did an AI overview on this because I was curious as to what it would say, and then I'm going to, of course, throw my own stuff in it, my own experience. There are some things that I've noticed that sponsors need to watch out for. Number one is codependency. Yeah. No. Even here, I have a lot of people that say, Dion, these are my meetings. This is going on. That's going on. I would recommend that you not just listen to me, but other people also. My sobriety, I did not get all of my recovery from my sponsor. My sponsor just guided me through the big book and called me out on my bullshit. If a sponsor is anything, it is a closed mouth friend. Right. Okay. So the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, while not explicitly defining sponsorship, nowhere in the big book does it really talk about sponsorship. It only talks about closed mouth friends, confidants, people that we do things with, right? Sponsorship actually came from something else. When AA first began, the only way that you could get to an AA meeting is if you were sponsored in by a current member of Alcoholics Anonymous. That is actually sponsorship. Right? But we're just utilizing, we wouldn't be able to change that now, would we? It's not like we'd be able to go back to AA and say, no, it's not sponsorship. I mean, everybody's used to the word, things like that. but it is kind of being misused as according to our history. So emphasizes the importance of one alcoholic helping another in recovery, a practice that later evolved into the sponsorship model. All right. It highlights the sharing of experience, strength, and hope as crucial for staying sober, and this is primarily achieved through one alcoholic working with another. The Big Book focuses on the program of action found in the 12 steps, and sponsors guide newcomers through this program. The first thing that I'm going to bring up, and again, this is experience, that it might work different for you. I don't want to hold to just one way. That's not, all right. I have 3 sponsees right now. I have not sponsored any of them the same. It is based on their needs. But I have some other skills that I've really worked on here. In the Big Book, it says you cannot transmit something that you do not have. And if you have not finished the steps yet, you shouldn't be sponsoring. You can be a closed mouth friend for sure. If you want to help somebody through maybe a turbulent time that they're going through, building a fellowship, things like that, absolutely. But you cannot transmit something that you haven't got. And if you haven't finished the steps, can't do it yet. Okay. Is there a requirement? No. No. Absolutely not. You can certainly be doing service work, right? But how are you going to share your experience on steps 10 and 11 if you haven't done them yet? How can you do that if you haven't done 8 and 9? Then how are you going to understand the forgiveness that happens in step 5? See, it's important that we finish the steps first. Nowhere it doesn't say anything like that in the Big Book. Okay, that's just an experience that I've had. I was not. I didn't feel like I was able to sponsor until I was about 4 or 5 years sober. I had a lot of other things that I had to deal with first. There are other ways to do go on a 12 step call. Work with people trying it. If you're newer in the program, you have a better chance of getting somebody to AA than maybe I do. Because they're going to be like, oh, 9 years? Yeah, what the fuck ever. They're not going to believe me. But they're going to believe 6 months. They're going to believe 9 months. See? All right. We are to pick our sponsees. Nowhere in the Big Book does it say sit on your butt and wait for somebody to ask you to sponsor them. Doesn't say it. Okay. Now it does work both ways. I'm talking again. I just got to reiterate. I'm talking about my own experience. I do not raise my hand. Very few people ask me to be their sponsor. I could count in the time I've been sober this time around 9 years. I could count it on one hand the amount. But I also don't raise my hand when they say, is anybody here willing to sponsor? I don't raise my hand. So there's that too. So it makes it look like I'm unavailable, even though I might not be. Okay. There is, however, explicit instructions on how to find a sponsee. They wrote a whole chapter on it called Working with Others. It's chapter 12. Right? Both ways seem to work. But I have found that then what people sit there and do is try and determine other people's willingness. Gotta be careful on that. The way I see it is if somebody showed up to a meeting, they admitted they were an alcoholic. I mean, that's enough willingness for me. God doesn't make too hard terms. Why should I? And that's where I see a lot of sponsorship going the kind of the wrong way. The demands. Right? Another mistake I see. Not covering the first 63 pages with people. There's a whole lot of information in there. A whole lot. Okay. So if you're gonna, but there are times when it is imperative that that person get through that. So I could understand if you had them read to page 63, and then once you got to the fourth and fifth step, that you go back and cover that. It's important that we cover those first 63 pages, sponsored, but you got to go through every word in that book. The amount of homework I see being given in steps 1, 2, and 3. There's no instructions in there on tons of homework. Your life experience, if your life experience has not taught you that you are an alcoholic, then maybe you're not done yet. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are very important, and there's a reason why they are non-action, and it is called the grace of God. Again, my experience. Okay. For some people, maybe that homework keeps them busy. Maybe they enjoy doing it. I don't know. See, that's why we attract what we are, and you end up with the right sponsor. This is why it's important that people that are currently sponsoring understand their own limitations, that they understand what they're good at, things like that. Right? See, I tend to pick young men that have a future ahead of them. That's usually who I seem to be able to help the most. All right. So sharing experience. What am I doing here? I'm sharing my experience. Okay. Is my experience fact? Yes. Is your experience fact? Is your experience fact even if it's different? Yes. Yes, it is. So we're just trying to find the way that works for us. Okay. Can't be closed-minded to, everything. But what are a few things that sponsor or not? What are we not? Okay. We're not therapists. We're not counselors. We're not marriage counselors. Don't ever interfere with a relationship that maybe your sponsee is married and they're fighting. That it is not your business to take care of. No. In fact, when I start sponsoring something, we have the friend conversation. We are not friends. I am your sponsor, and I need to remain that person for now. We'll get to know each other as we go through these 12 steps. Will we become friends? I don't know. I have no idea. All right. Now, these are just, what are those? Well, those are internal boundaries for Dion. Just are. So sharing experience, the big book emphasizes that staying sober requires sharing one's experience with other alcoholic. The sharing is the foundation of the sponsor-sponsee relationship. I've been there, I've done it, I've solved the drink problem, and now I can pay it forward. Now I can pass it on. The key is becoming a recovered alcoholic. That's the key to sponsorship. All right. Recovered means I'm no longer insane. That's why it was 4 or 5 years before I could sponsor, because I wasn't sane yet. All right. Working the steps. The primary role of a sponsor is to guide a newcomer through the 12 steps as outlined in the big book. There's a whole outline there. It tells you exactly how to do it. So why do we need a guide? Well, Dion, why do I need a guide? Because your alcoholic brain is going to take it wrong. Your alcoholic brain is going to look for the loopholes. It's going to look for the easier, softer way. Always. That is the brain's function, to find the easier, softer way at all times. Okay. So you work your steps with a sponsor. Here's another one. Once you've completed the steps and the traditions and gone through the good chunk of it, you're supposed to let that person go. Sponsorship is supposed to be temporary. It's not a permanent thing. We've got to learn more. Now is when the friendship starts. Now you become friendly. And maybe you even still meet once a week. I've got one guy, he's done. We're going through the traditions now, and I think we got a couple more traditions, but we'll probably keep on meeting each week. Just, and I might take on another sponsee because I'm not really doing anything. We're just checking in. Now we're friends. So it's become different. I haven't been his sponsor for months. But there's this thing in AA where it's like, oh, you always gotta have a sponsor. You always gotta have it. No, you do not. This is the way that it works. You go through the steps multiple times a year. Once you have finished the steps and you start sponsoring other people, you continue to go through the steps over and over again. That is how it's done. You can't be the sponsee forever. At some point, you've got to take the next step up. Now, that does not mean that a sponsor is higher up than a sponsee, but that is part of what I'm seeing. Okay. But this adding on, we tried those ways. If you want to do that, if you want to go clinical route, then get a therapist and go do goal setting and stuff. But a sponsor is not here for that. Okay. I have a whole clinical side to me. I do not usually use it while I am. No. I will use it if I'm helping somebody solve a problem. Then I'll use my clinical skills. But I do not use any of the things that I learned clinically while I am sponsoring. It is not my job to do. Otherwise, it will cause confusion as to what my role actually is. I would recommend therapy. It's what I would recommend. And every single one of my sponsees is in therapy. I do not require it, but I do highly recommend it because the way that I do this program will just make a therapist happy. If I have a sponsee and they already have a therapist, my job is to make the therapist's job more successful. That's my job. I am to support. That is the person that they need to talk to about their relationship problems. Yes. Now, I might have knowledge outside of the program or experience, right? And I might share that with them, but it is experience only. I'm a guide. Step 1's over here. Step 2's over there. Hey, let's lead you to step 3. I'm going to walk with you on this part, okay? I need the exercise anyway. Oh, we are. We're, I don't know why people are getting to all this pride. Pride does not belong in sponsorship. Am I proud of my sponsees? Yes, of course I am. I am proud of their actions. I am proud of what they have done for themselves. I don't need any more than that. I shouldn't need more than that. I've had plenty of sponsees where I helped them out, never heard from them again. It's okay. Isn't that what's supposed to happen? I celebrate when somebody's like, Dion, I've gotten everything out of you that I can. Great. Now go find that next person. Okay. There are some people I helped and never heard from again. There's some people I helped to find out that they died from alcoholism. There's some people that I helped out and then I end up watching them tell their story and I haven't seen them for a couple of years. That's all great. If that person turns out to be a good friend of mine, even better. But if I give all this love to this strange alcoholic and I get none back, I'm still okay with that. I don't need it. Right? And every time I'm done, every time I meet with a sponsee and we're done, thank you, Dion, for what you're doing, taking out your time. And my response is this: you're welcome. All I ask is that you pass it on to the next person. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Right? So if you want to give a little example here, then I'm going to have to start wrapping up. I got therapy at 2:00. See, even on the first page, even on page 1, page nada, I have things underlined. Right, go here. I have things underlined here. Approved AA literature. Recovered is underlined. Even here, the contents have shit all through them. Look at all this information. Okay. And we haven't even started to get to the Roman numerals yet. Right? The preface, plenty of stuff underlined there. Okay. It is this part. If we are replacing homework with underlining the big book, we're not following instructions. Okay? Because that homework doesn't, you know why we're doing all that? My book is underlined like my sponsors was. My sponsees' books are set up the same way so that when you're reading through it, right? Like in There's a Solution, I'm on page 19. None of us makes a sole vocation a much more important, but I have little things on the side. Do the 12 steps, sponsor. God equals by doing these steps. This is page 18. Powerless over alcohol. See, it gets burned into my brain here. And There's a Solution in We Agnostics, in Bill's story, all these, and it shows my alcoholism. It shoves it in my fucking face. So don't go after the easier, softer way, or you're going to miss things. God, take the time. Okay. I do understand that we do want to get well quicker, but I'm going to tell you something. Only God decides that. It's got to be God's will. All right. Not professional help. A sponsor is not a therapist or a counselor. They offer support and guidance based on their own experience with the program, but not professional advice. Ever. I don't do advice. Dion, do you have some advice for me? Well, I can give you my experience. They usually start asking for advice once they start sponsoring. Hey, Dion, if you were in this situation, what would you do? I'm happy to cover. Big one is, they sit down and do their 4-step. They write their grudge list and they got like 4 things and they're like, well, I just don't ever get angry. Okay, now it's time to poke the bear. And I will. I'll poke the bear and I will piss you off and see, look how easy it was to piss you off. Don't sit here and tell me. People that usually say that usually have the worst anger problem or they're highly depressed. So take that into consideration. Right? So we are not professional help. What we do is we work with professionals. It takes a tribe to get someone and keep someone sober. Informal responsibility. Sponsorship in AA is informal and unwritten responsibility where one alcoholic shares their experience with another to help them stay sober. All right. Meeting as equals. The sponsor and sponsees meet as equals, sharing their experience and working the program together. No one higher than. There's no more than or less than signs in AA. It does not work that way. And if a sponsor is like, well, you're just not doing what I'm saying, now we got a problem. No, my sponsees can do whatever the fuck they want to. I had a sponsee less than a year went to a concert the other night. Bunch of drunk. They're okay. Post Malone, I think. Had a good time. What am I gonna do? Now, if I have a newcomer and they're like, yeah, I'm going to Mexico next week. Mexico is never good for an alcoholic. Okay, it's just not good, especially an all-inclusive package. At least somebody that's a little bit newer. Nowadays, I'd be able to go, but the alcohol wouldn't be the problem. It'd be my anxiety. All right. Am I tell them not to go to Mexico? No. What I am going to do is say, do you know how many people I've met in that situation? They always come back drunk. Not one person has come back sober in that situation. I'm just telling you. And then it always, but then, or boy meets girl. Oh, but I love her, Dion. All right, you don't know what love is yet, dude. Okay, describe to me what love is. It always ends up turning into sex. So what's my answer to that? Well, I can't stop them. So I tell them, okay, so we work an honest program, right? Be honest about your intentions. And then they come back and say, oh, she didn't want that. I'm like, oh, well, no shit, huh? Yeah. She said, no. Oh, she did, huh? Surprise, surprise. No imposed view. Sponsors should not impose their personal beliefs or interpretations of the program on the sponsee. You can't avoid that. You're going to have your own views. You're going to have your own opinions. It's okay to bring this stuff up. Are they required to? Is it? But my imposed view cannot become a demand. Okay? I bring up my opinion here often. Okay? You don't have to take it. You don't. You don't have to agree with it. It's an opinion. And opinions don't hold weight. All right. But it should be, I think what they're saying is giving an opinion on like, well, the way I see your relationship with your wife is then we're doing, yeah, no, then we're off base. But we're talking in general. I've talked to several of my sponsees about my political views and things like that, and that it's okay to be different and stuff. Sure, we have my religious views, things like that. Sure. And sometimes they'll come back with something different, and it might even change my mind. God forbid. So that one I don't totally agree with, but I get what they're saying. Guided by the book. This is the big one, and it's the number one mistake I see. The Big Book of Program of Action is a primary guide for both the sponsor and sponsee. Do what the big book says. Every answer you need to every problem you have is in the big book. So, all right, gotta wrap this up. So, seeking guidance, not answers. I don't have the answers. I have my experience. I may not have your answer. The answer that I have may not suit your needs. It might be different for you. A sponsor can help a newcomer find answers within the big book and the 12 steps, but the ultimate guidance should come from a power greater than oneself. Always. All right. You're welcome, Michelle. I hope that helped. And I'm really not trying to be a dick here or anything. It's just I see what I see, and I've been around the program for a very long time, and I've seen things come and go multiple times. Even right now, the popularity of sober popularity. Okay, if you're sober curious and you're non-alcoholic, a lot of that stuff may work, but for non-alcoholics, it is a death sentence. So we got to be careful. We got to be careful on that line there. All right, and it's a thin red line. It really is. Okay, so a sponsor is just a person who's gone through the steps and has the answer. That's it. If they are anything more than that, then they're out of their lane. I know I would think I was out of my lane. So, all right. Thank you everybody for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. I do. Peace out. And